In the Tolkien universe, cram is a type of biscuit or bread baked by the men of Dale and Lake Town and often shared with travelers. In The Lord of the Rings, when Galadriel gave the Fellowship Lembas, Gimli was very unimpressed, thinking it was a type of cram. But he is surprised and delighted when he finds the airy and strengthening lembas to be so sweet and tasty. But just because cram isn't lembas by any account, we should appreciate it for what it is made for. It is a foodstuff that is easily packed and transported for journeys, and it keeps its nutritional value and stays good almost indefinitely. Cram may not be the most enjoyable of foods, but it may just be good enough, I think you'll see, to make you get out
a soup spoon!
Even if you are into the fantasy world created by J.R.R. Tolkien, thinking about experiencing cram may not excite you. In our own everyday world, however, cram actually exists, though, and it has for a very long time.
For centuries, soldiers and sailors and travelers have used a bread called hardtack, or ship's biscuit, to sustain them wherever they journeyed. Hardtack is the predecessor to our saltine crackers. It is probably the easiest recipe that you'll ever put together and prepare. Then you can store it for emergencies or zombie apocalypses or things like that. Heck, it's so easy, your kids could make it. Let's get started.
Now, you will need 2 cups of white flour. Whole grain flours can be used, but because of the higher oil content, your cram will tend to go rancid much sooner. There we go, and 2 cups water. Just a sec. And 4 teaspoons kosher salt. Now mix together until you get a very loose dough or sludge. Now use clean hands, please. Now what we have here is 2 cups white flour mixed with 2 cups water and 4 teaspoons of salt. Now keep in mind that this recipe is very forgiving. You may use more or less flour or water, but as a general rule you use equal parts flour and water with salt. Then add the same amount of flour again. So now we will slowly mix in 2 or more cups of flour until we get a nice stiff dough. Okay, now your dough should look a bit similar to this. But now afterwards, you turn your dough out on a clean flour counter. Now keep in mind that depending on the size of your work area, you might want to divide the dough into 2 or 3 equal parts, as is done here. There's the dough shown here, and then the dough that's right here. So now you roll the dough out. Use the dough out using a rolling pin if you want, or just use your hands, like this. Now remember, this is cram, not lembas. This is not going to be soft. This is not going to be a soft, light, easy pastry. This is food for desperate times. Roll or pound out between 1/4 of an inch and 1/8 of an inch thick.
All right. Now, once you got it rolled out, you're going to want to cut it out in the desired shape and size. Now, I'm going to use a 2-inch round cookie cutter, but in the old days they would cut them into squares, and they would make sure that they were the right size, that they weighed about 4 ounces or 1/4 pound, so that each sailor could expect to get 4 biscuits a day for their 1 pound of bread allotment. Now for us hobbits, all we have to do is just weigh our finished product once we're done, and we'll decide whatever our allotment is at that time. All right, position your biscuits on a parchment lined cookie sheet. And since they don't have yeast or any leavening, they can be pretty close together. What you want to do is use a fork or a chopstick or a skewer or even an old medicine syringe, and what you want to do is poke holes. In this size, you want to poke about 4 holes. You know, kind of like in biscuits, you know, and you want to poke the holes and then turn it over to make sure that those holes go all the way through. So like this. Oops. Now turn yours over. You got to make sure that that goes all the way through, and poke them again in the same place. So you want holes to go through them like that.
Now place in your 250 degree oven for 1 hour. After that, take them out. Turn them over and bake for another hour or until they are hard but not burnt. You want to bake out the moisture, but burnt things aren't very tasty. Believe me, it can happen.
I burnt the last batch when I failed to hear the timer go off, so. When your cram has cooled, you'll find that they are really almost rock hard, literally rock hard. So you'll want to store them in an airtight container and maybe drop in one of those silica packets. Be sure not to eat it, but drop that in there to absorb moisture, and they will last really indefinitely, almost indefinitely. In fact, there's a piece of hardtack in a museum in Denmark. It has been there since 1852, or the hardtack was made supposedly in 1852. This isn't it, but this is kind of what it looks like. 1852, and so for over 100 years this piece of hardtack has been there. It's still good, it's still edible, it still has its nutritional value, and it could still be used today if somebody was wanting to eat it. Not that I would suggest that. Hardtack really is. It's hard. So you could break a tooth on it. So the best way to eat a piece of hardtack is to maybe put it in a cup of your hot coffee or tea or water, or even some soup would be a good way to soften the hardtack, and it would thicken your soup as well. But you could break it up and then eat it. Oh, look, our kitty has come to see us. And Mycroft,
Sorry, you can't have it.
I don't think would like
I don't think you'd like it.
hardtack or cram. So, but anyway, you really could break a tooth on this. So you could, excuse me, you could keep it in a bag, a cloth bag for easy toting on any kind of adventure or journey that you might go on. And you could use this then and break the cram, you know, over a rock or with a hammer, and turn it back into flour and use it to thicken soups and stews and whatever while you're out in the woods or camping. Use it that way. So,
but now you'll have to excuse us. We need to hurry along. We have an appointment with Gandalf and the Dwarf of Green Dragon Inn.
okay, well, I know it's a reach, but really, cram can make you get out Your
A soup spoon.
recording. Alright, so now I guess what you'll so you're gonna open the door. So that's what's gonna be there. Alright, it's recording. So we're gonna open the door, you're gonna say your line, and then you're gonna slide this in. But be sure that you're looking down into the camera.
Yeah.
Ready?
And